Hello, and welcome to this NLP for You online video. What is NLP? Probably the first question I'm asked when I mention that I do NLP is what the heck is NLP? Or if someone has come across it before, then it's usually just wise nods. That's until I give them my explanation of what NLP actually is. Okay, let's be honest here. There isn't really a surefire definition of what NLP is, and every trainer, practitioner and awarding body has its own definition. Some of them are really out there and others are a little bit more practical. I tend towards the more practical end, as you'll see in a moment. But to begin with, let's look at the classic definition. It's interesting from a historical perspective, but about as useful as a chocolate teapot. Way back in the 1970s, when NLP was first brought together by John Grinder and Richard Bandler, their work was aimed at therapists. Today, there's no love lost between the two camps, but that's a story for another day. The important thing is that it was aimed at professional psychologists, psychotherapists and counsellors, and so it had to have an air of legitimacy about it. So Messrs. Grinder and Bandler gave it the name Neuro-Linguistic Programming because it sounded scientific. So let's take a quick look at each of these and see what it means in NLP terms. Okay, neurological. Let's be clear here. If you talk to a modern neurologist or neuroscientist about the neurological aspects of NLP, you'll have about 5 seconds before they throw you out of a window. In terms of NLP, neurological means body position, breathing, emotional state, perspective, and a whole bunch of other physiological and psychological techniques. Whatever you call it, and neurological is as good as anything, the idea is a simple one. How you sit, stand, move, breathe and think about things has a significant impact on your emotional state, and you can use these changes to create real positive change in your life. And yes, changing the way you stand can make you feel more positive or more depressed, but just changing a few things doesn't mean that the change will stick, which is where the linguistic component of NLP comes in. Linguistic in the sense of NLP just means complex language. I know it seems to be jargon for the sake of jargon, but remember that NLP was originally aimed at mental health professionals, and the jargon was a nod to them. Personally, I think that it actually unnecessarily confuses people, but that's just me. When it comes to language, there are two main ideas within NLP. The first is the Milton model of hypnotic language, that's deliberately vague, and the other one is the meta model, or the Satir model, as it was originally called, until Virginia Satir said nope, and that's the language of detail. The meta model is designed to find out what's wrong, and the Milton model is used to fix it. The neurological and linguistic components are used together to change people's personal programming. Now, I started my professional life as a programmer, and I really object to the term programming here. I understand why it's there. It's like neurological and linguistic. It's a form of shorthand for what's going on, but it brings with it so much baggage. The idea within NLP is that everything we do is like a computer program. There's a start phase or trigger, there's a process of the program, and then it ends. You can see this with someone with PTSD. Something in the environment will trigger a memory that will start their mind down a particular pathway of actions, emotions, and psychological and physiological responses, and after a while it comes to an end, just like a program. In NLP, everything we do is a program, whether it's brushing your teeth or combing your hair, or having a nervous breakdown when somebody speaks to you in a particular way, or overeating or not being able to keep to a diet. They're all programs that you run in your head. So NLP is designed to allow you to make changes to those programs and in effect make changes to the way you run your life. So overall, a pretty comprehensive and detailed understanding of NLP that's confusing and really difficult to explain and adds absolutely nothing to NLP. It's not helpful, it's not useful, and if you try to explain all of that to someone, they usually switch off after about the first 10 to 15 seconds. The classic definition has its place, I must admit, but in reality, most people don't want to see how the sausage is made. So I thought about it and I came up with what I think is much easier to understand definition of NLP. When I'm asked what NLP is, I have a really simple answer. NLP is a set of tools and techniques that can be used to make positive change in your life. And that's it. succinct and clear. I know it's short to the point and doesn't cover any of the detail. But that's what most people want, and the detailed explanation doesn't add anything. If you learn NLP, you never need to think about the neurological, linguistic or programming, just the tools and techniques. And if people want more information, then I tell them that the tools are the building blocks and include hypnotic language, detailed questions, and trying different perspectives. And the techniques are simple processes that I take people through to get the changes that they want, a bit like a role play. I know it's a simplified view, but for most people, they don't want the details. Very few people who drive want to know how an internal combustion engine works, and most people's knowledge about their TV is how to operate the remote. If the techniques work, and the techniques of NLP certainly do that, then the jargon is unnecessary. I've always worked on the keep it simple principle, and I hope that my explanation of NLP has been of use to you, and that you've enjoyed this video. If you're interested in more information about NLP, then visit my site at www.nlpforyouonline.com. And if you've found this video useful, then like it or subscribe to the channel. Until next time, goodbye and good mental health.